This is the number one reason why I see businesses stagnating and failing to grow. You might be familiar with the old adage, what gets measured gets managed. And that's because if you manage it, there's the possibility that you can change it. And so in this video, I want to cover reporting, dashboards, the things that are built into HighLevel to make it easier for you to be aware of your constraint, of the areas that might be underperforming your goals. And as we assemble this all together, we're going to be using a little bit of AI, a lot of it at HighLevel, and putting together a robust system that at least prevents you from accidentally moving in the wrong direction for too long of a time period. If you're new here, my name is Matt Decino. We have a company that's helped over 5,000 businesses generate over $100 million inside of HighLevel. And so I care about this deeply. Creating systems to help businesses grow, businesses that solve real problems. This is one of those key constraints. It's kind of just blindness. It's like driving with mud smudged all over your windshield. You have no idea where you're going. So the odds you're going to get into an accident, very high. So strap in, pay attention. I'm going to dive into the screen right here. We're going to get very practical when it comes to building stuff inside of HighLevel. That's what I love to do. Make it as simple and easy as possible to follow and to build this for yourself. And so inside of HighLevel, there's an area called reporting. They actually, trigger you over, or they let you know there's dashboards if you want to just like have key metrics at a glance. Reports are similar to dashboards in how they're built, except that these are emailed or alerted in some way. We run this, we run into an email, then it alerts our team in Slack. And so however your team likes to see things and communicate, you can kind of create an integration for that. But the key thing here is you want to have reports, you want to have dashboards, you want to translate the activity go inside of your HighLevel account, your CRM, into actionable insights. And so you've got right now just a blank report, and you can import if you already have like something built out and from your dashboard, because it's a very similar builder there. So we're going to go ahead and start from scratch, a completely blank report here. I apologize. This alert that keeps on coming up. This is actually a test of a nudge that we have as part of our system. So if you want to send those kind of nudges to your customers, you can do that with inside of HLPT. But here we are, blank slate, and they kind of have a default title screen that I like to get rid of. I don't think it's that helpful. I have to go straight into the numbers here. But before I build this out, because you might be staring at this blank screen saying, Matt, this is great. The question is, what numbers should I even be looking at? And so my advice is, I'm not going to try and tell you specifically what you should do for your business. I advise you to go and talk to AI. So I'm going to say, I want to build out a reporting dashboard and we're going to pick whatever the business is. You're going to do it for your own business. And I'm going to pretend that it's a garage clean out business. What KPIs should I make sure are being viewed daily, so that we can, let's say so that they can steadily grow and have actionable insights for the business. I want these KPIs, and that just stands for key performance indicators, to be from data we can get from inside the CRM. And so let's consider this. This is probably typical of a lot of businesses, or at least categories of businesses where you're in-person business. It's usually like, what's your sales structure? What's your fulfillment structure? What's your marketing structure? And then if they have similar structures there, you'll kind of get these similar sort of KPIs. So it's given us some sales KPIs, some operational KPIs, some customer and financial KPIs. And there's the three buckets. It's saying these are the ones that are important. And I think I might agree with all these. These look pretty darn good. So we got new leads, lead to job conversion, how many quotes are sent, how many jobs are booked, and some of this becomes semantics, but it's just understanding, how many folks asked for a quote, how many folks actually scheduled, meaning they accepted the quote, and then how much daily revenue is being added to the calendar there. So let's start to build this out inside of HighLevel. And so immediately there's kind of these suggested widgets. I usually just go for the add widget, and then you've got a couple of chart types: numeric, donut, line, bar chart, horizontal bar, and then sort of like a table there. Some things that I care about, like I just want to see a big old number here. And so there might be categories of like what's a lead, but sometimes just like literally a new contact is a lead in your CRM. So if there's not another reason why you should have contacts being created, then every new contact is a new lead. But there's a couple of filter options here that are helpful to understand. Is you've got the do you want to show the number based on when they were created, when they were updated, their actual birth date, when their last activity was, and then you can have the 4th of July just means you can run it based on other date fields that might be associated with the contact here. So I could use the contacts count and show, I'm going to rename all this to like birthdays, today. If I was doing that, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to call it new leads. That's what we want. And I'm going to do it based on created. And then you do have the option as you build these out. You can show it based on the report range, just yesterday, just today, and the report range means it's going to pull whatever dates and numbers are there. If I'm looking at the report live, then this is helpful. Like just to know it's going to dynamically change based on what dates are selected. If I always want to see it a little bit more static, I might pick something like yesterday. And I'll say this, the more often you look at your numbers, the more likely you are to improve those numbers. It's just a reality. Like where your focus is, like that's where your energy goes. And so some things I like to always see it like just yesterday. I just want to see what were yesterday's numbers. But if you want to be safe, the date range, you can obviously choose, just yesterday. It's just an extra step that may or may not be necessary. And I think it defaults to a 1 month look back there. So just helpful to be aware of. And then you can put in comparison data if you want it. But for now, we're just going to say new leads. This is based on the date range. And there you go. We've got 0. Our business is doing not great. But now we can keep going through and get out of the widget editor there. And we're just going to add more. So if you want to add more on the left side, and we're going to choose through these KPIs that we want to build out. So we got our new leads created. How many came in? Lead to job conversion rate. So we got the percentage of today's leads that booked an estimate or job. That's kind of cool. So we've got appointments. So, for this to work, you should be using a high-level calendar. And we can do, let's go to appointment count. I'm going to do number. But under advanced settings, we can do, is it created or booked for? This is where we want created, right? So this is how many appointments got booked today. They might be booking it for 3 days from now. But this is helpful to know, like, what did we accomplish today? How many booked appointments did we create today? And once again, I'll make it just match with the range. So whatever range there is going to show on this view. I'm going to go ahead and add it. Oh, I'm going to edit the title. Call this like appointments booked. This isn't a percentage. So I'll say right now, the call it like relative numbers where you're like, I want this number divided by that number. We don't have that ability currently. Maybe we will in the future. But you do have filters that you can add in here. So filters would be things like if they're in, is it a status? So this is going to filter now based on the appointment. But I could essentially build out similar numbers in different ways depending on what filters I want. So the filter options are going to be based on the widget type. So right now I can filter by, confirm like no shows. I can look at how many folks no showed us today. You got to make sure these things are corresponding logic. So I had it configured to show the number of appointments that were created today, right? That wouldn't make sense if I want to see no shows, because odds are a lot of them are not like the ones they're booked today for Saturday, so they don't even have the option of no showing. However, if I go back to appointment count and I say now it's like, let's do booked for, these are going to be the ones that are actually like the appointment happened on here. Now, if I put the condition and I want to see like, okay, I want to see, you might do like is not no show or whatever. If I say is no show, and this kind of gets into semantics, do you call a cancel a no show? Do you only count shows? However you want to do it. But let's just say is a no show, which in our book, that means they literally no response, no show, didn't reschedule. They just straight up. And now if I want to call this, this is our number of no shows. These numbers, you got to know, may not match. We're getting into like the nuances of KPIs now and understanding the logic behind it. Um, but that's why it's helpful to have like AI tell me like, what is the number that I want? And then I'm going to go make sure I'm building it to match that number that's relevant to, to me. But in this case, if I have like my number of no-shows, just understand I might have booked 3 appointments today, but I might have had 10 appointments scheduled. So I could have 8 no-shows and 3 booked appointments. They're just totally independent numbers because this one's based on what did I do today. This is based on how many people no-showed me today. These appointments might be booked for a week from now. These appointments are the only ones that are in this, in this date range, or if the range was today, right? If I changed it and said, it's whatever, or in the last 7 days, whatever the range is there. So we're gonna start. We got new leads, that's good. Appointment count, no shows. This may or may not matter, right? If you are in my example, a garage clean out business, no one's no showing you. You're only they live there, which I love that about in-person businesses is you get almost never no showed because they live there. But new lead activity, appointments generated, those are all great KPIs to hold from a sales perspective. Quotes sent, jobs booked. So let's look at those possibility here. I believe for quotes, this is going to be under payments. Or if you're unsure, just search. Do we have quotes? Do we have invoices? These might still be current limitations. We're going to look at payments. We've got revenue trend, revenue by channel. Oh, they do have invoice send. So let's look at this. But these are all trends. I kind of wish some of these were not just trends. So it's always going to present like that line. Let's see if we can do number. So we can adjust it there. So this is how many invoices were sent in this range. We're going to do created on. Could be issued on. That's semantics if you create it and then didn't send it. So we'll go issued on in this range. Don't necessarily care about other things, built-in conditions. The status is sent. Great. Payment mode is live. Awesome. So we can get number of invoices sent. That's good. Daily revenue. So let's see if we can get a daily revenue simple count. Total revenue, and this is where, let's see, if I go to sum of revenue. So this is helpful. If you find the widgets, this did not always used to exist like this. So now that like you have all the chart types, it's defaulting to a trend, which is a line, but it's allowing me to reset it over to number there so that I can get just a sum of the revenue, created on, transaction date. Okay, this is helpful. This is helpful if you're doing any sort of recurring business model. For our example, this doesn't apply here. If it's created on, that's only going to show like when the subscription started, I believe is what it means here. Transaction date's going to be, okay, it's like there's another transaction, like this is sort of the collected money there. We're going to use the date range again, and we're going to see what our conditions are. Status has succeeded, payment mode is live. That's all totally fine. So, and then we're going to rename this to not total revenue trend, just total revenue. So you can see I now have number of leads in this range, number of appointments generated in this range, number of invoices sent in this range, total revenue collected in this range. That's sort of like our cash collected is really what this means. Another term for that same thing going on. And what am I missing? So a lead to job conversion rate. I don't have that. I'm sort of deriving this. And so when we went into, I'll show you a different way. So we got, these are firm numbers, right? It's going to tell me new leads and the new appointment count. What this isn't telling me is the number of these leads that booked an appointment. However, I can show you how we get there. And it's not the appointment count because as we saw, the conditions for an appointment widget are going to want to filter and be related to, like, these filters are related to, these options are the calendar, group reschedule, like these are all calendar or appointment based filters. Instead, I'm going to use the contacts, this contact count, do count of contacts created on, right? So same thing. So this is basically the same as that first object there, but I'm going to add some more conditions. And my filter, you see, I've got a lot more filter options just based on the entire contact there. And I'm going to filter on, well, there's a, so it's sort of like a slant way to do this. You can introduce tags when the appointment is booked. So, you know, like, hey, if I've got a tag, like the appointment is booked, therefore a tag gets added. Cool. I can now say how many contacts created today or in this range in this week have the appointment book tag. That would give me the smaller number. And now I would have a denominator and a numerator to work with to get that ratio. Sometimes it's the assigned user. So if I'm like, they only get an assigned user when they book an appointment, well, then great. Any of the leads from, in this range that their assigned user is not empty, meaning they have an assigned user, that tells me the same thing. These are, this is our contacts with appointments. So there isn't actually a filter there you saw for like appointment booked. Currently, there isn't that option there. But there's sort of related things here. So like if you dive into our custom fields, maybe you're logging, appointment booked in there, so you can do it with custom fields. If all of your appointments are coming through a calendar URL, or like that's where the lead is being created, well, then you can kind of do it that way. You can use the tag assigned user. So there's sort of related filter objects here where I could imagine getting to the point where I see a firm number on who, how many of these new leads, I'll make it super easy, like how many of these new leads booked an appointment. Oh, my conditions are invalid. Yeah, cool. Go back to assign user. It's not empty. And so now I might have new leads with appointments. This is the appointments count. And so you see, once again, you got to understand this applies just to those new leads. New leads, like the appointments count, I might generate 10 appointments and 2 of my leads from today booked because it took me 2 days, it's like, or whatever. It's a lead from a month ago that booked an appointment now. So like these numbers don't have to pair up. They're still helpful to see. They kind of give you a trend line of how things are going. Our cash collected and our invoices sent, and I think we're now there at our 5 KPIs. So you run the same process for each one of those categories. And so some of the other things, like as I'm organizing this, especially if I'm going to show multiple sort of categories, I might have, is this sales and marketing, and I might put a kind of a headline to mark each one of these sections, right? And if I want, I can spread that out. So as I'm building out this, I might have, okay, this is my sales and marketing, and then I might have another one for the other 3 sections there, the operations KPIs, financials. And so this is why I love AI from a guidance standpoint, telling you, like, here's the numbers you should care about, and then figuring out how can I get as close to those numbers visually being sent to me on a daily there. Sometimes I'll split it out though. Like we typically, like I don't show operations KPIs to the sales and marketing team. If you're a small team, solo man job, you kind of need to see everything, but you can decide who should see what. So we've got our report, got our key numbers there. I'm going to go ahead and save it. So now it's a referenceable thing. I can come into it, and now I can do this sort of like, well, we got a couple other page properties here. I typically don't show this stuff like, dividers. I keep it as simple as possible on the cover page. I'm like, I don't want any of that. So I like to keep it as clean, as simple, straightforward as possible. So when people are clicking into it, they don't have to scroll, they don't have to go anywhere. It's like, there it is. Here's my dashboard. Here's the numbers and why they matter. The what I will do sometimes, especially if this is like, I just want to make it as easy as possible for people to understand it, is add in descriptors around here. And so that text box or this headline can be enough to sort of like describe, you know, either why it matters, how you arrived at it, like what assumptions you baked in there. So like you saw, I had the assumption. So this is new leads in date range with no assigned user. I'm assuming no user means, or I guess I did this thing, I flipped it around, but new leads with appointments is like, I'm assuming we have no user assigned till appointment is booked. And so this should be with assigned user. Hopefully my logic carries there. And so these sort of notes, if you will, I might use the headline instead. It's like taking up a certain amount of space. But these kind of help when someone's looking at it, and if a number goes wonky and out of whack, because their view is not going to be the editor view. They'll just see these are the KPIs, and I'll make sure as they're reading it, and I want to make sure as they're, these sort of notes are helpful, because if you see it or someone else sees it, they don't see the editor view. They can't see all the logic behind it. And so if a number goes out of whack and they start trying to adjust or correct for it, I want to make sure it's not just based on a bad assumption, like, oh, now we're assigning users and we, drive this number through an assumption there. So I like to note any assumptions for myself in the future or for other folks if they're being part of this. And so now when I feel good about it, I can go to my say %. I can put a schedule in there. Is it daily? Which I highly recommend, especially if I'm doing daily. I'm looking at yesterday's numbers and maybe a contrast over last week, and then you can set in what's the date range. So date range was set there, but if I send it daily, look at yesterday, it's automatically going to pull yesterday, which is really great. You can actually set the date settings for a widget. So if you wanted to have some of them show daily, others show weekly, that is a setting you can do in there. But this is what you can do. So now it'll automatically send it to all of your selected recipients, and that way you can get your reports sent to you or your team daily. Make sure that you're looking at the numbers that matter and using those to make informed, data-driven decisions, which ultimately lead to growth in the business. So if you like this video, go ahead and give me a like down below. That means a lot to the channel. And let me know, what do you want me to build next? Post it in the comments, and I'll make sure that it gets on the queue coming up in the next video.